Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're featuring another model by Ball. This is their Engineer Hydrocarbon Original, and I can honestly say it's a beast. It is really quite cool. I've got a bit of a soft spot for this one, even though its sheer weight, it does have such presence to the watch, and that's kind of cool, and I do like this. Before I get too far into review, please like and subscribe if you like the content, as this allows me to review many cool watches like this. Now, this has come courtesy of the team over at Francis and Gaye. They've got such a good selection of watches in there. I would strongly recommend you going in, have a look, or look online, and I dare say that Ryan or one of the members of the team will be able to sort you out a deal and get this watch out to you. So anyway, what do we have here? Just look at it. It's a beast, isn't it? It is just so cool. It's one of these watches I was 50-50 with, but now I've had it for a few days, I really quite like it. Sizes wise, even though it looks quite a big watch, it actually isn't. It has a case size of 40mm, but be aware that's only the case size. As you can see, the bezel on it does actually protrude out somewhat. So the bezel comes in at 42. That's why it looks bigger than it actually is. The thickness of the watch, even though Ball say it's 14.5, I'm measuring 15mm or 14.9 say. So it's got a bit of heft to it, but don't be alarmed too much, as you have this rather wonderful kind of angle going on to the lugs, and it does allow it to sit a little bit lower than what you'd actually think. The lug to lug point, I should point out, is 50.5 mil, 50.7 mil, so it's not, it is long, but as I say, this angle does actually make it seem shorter than it actually is, and the bandwidth on this is a 20mm one. So let's have a look at that dial. Now the dial, I think, is absolutely superb, because I'm a sucker for a sandwich dial. And what I mean by that is the hour markers on this, if I point to it, might be a little bit easier. These hour markers here are actually recessed below the dial. So it gives the dial, so the dial's actually cut out for you to allow to see these, and it gives the dial more depth. And I think we've done just a really good job with this one. I'm sometimes not a big fan of the numerals Ball sometimes put when they use their tubes, and this I think is so much better than that. I'm really, really impressed with this one. The dial, the real gloss black dial, just fantastic, really nice. The Ball text at the top and bottom, just right, no problems at all. And obviously you have the Swiss made down at the bottom. It's a day-date model, this one, and you've got these incredibly polished hands with the ball motif on the end of the second hand and the tritium tubes on those. I'll go into more detail about the tritium tubes in a minute. Now, the actual sapphire crystal on this has got a gorgeous dome on there, and you can see when you catch it in certain lights, it does a good job of magnifying the hands there, and then you pick up the distortion. It just really does look quite cool. I like that. Sapphire, obviously AR coating. Now the bezel on this is really nice. It's actually, I believe it's a sapphire bezel, but you have more tritium underneath here. Now most watches rely on UV light to charge the aluminous material, which is mounted either at the hour markers, hands, or bezel, whatever. And subsequently, when it has a charge, it will glow for how many hours. But this uses Ball specialise in the use of tritium tubes. Now, they emit a light all the time. I'm not sure about their half-life, because technically it is a radioactive material, but not to any effect that it would harm you in any way, shape, or form. So what they do on this, they will glow all the time. And I took a picture late at night the other night. I'll just drop it in now, and my god, does it glow. That was with no UV light or any external light sources to the watch. It just glows. If anything, I would say it's one of these, at first, if you turn out the lights and you compare this to a normal watch, it doesn't look as strong. But the difference is, this will just, when it's pitch black, this looks so bright. It is really, really good. And it will stay like that all the way through. So anyway, more about the bezel. What about the action? Ready? Very, very nice. And almost, I'd say actually zero backplay. It is actually a very good bezel. Yeah, can't fault that one at all. Plenty of purchase available there. Because it protrudes and it's actually slightly wider than a case, it's very easy to grip. Now, the actual case it's got this real kind of curvature going on there. And to be fair, it sits quite nicely on the wrist. I can't really fault it at all. But the one thing I really like about this is this system here. Now, at first, you may think, well, why do you need this? It's a little bit, kind of like Panerai have got their crown guard system. This is actually quite clever, because to remove this, so you can see, first of all, we've got the actual lettering on there, which is obviously always the right way round. You have to press this button here. So if you see here, that presses. As soon as you press that, then you can get to the crown. Now, what I like about this, you can't accidentally leave the crown undone, because to close this, and you'll hear it, makes a nice little audible click, it must be screwed in. So if this, let's say there, it's not quite screwed in, that will not close. So it has to be screwed down. This, after all, is a 200-meter diver. And so I like that system. There's no accidental way, and you see the tight tolerance we have here. There's no accidental way you can leave the crown undone. I was wearing a Seiko watch the other day, Seiko Saab. Now, albeit it's not a diver, but it hasn't got a screw down crown, and I accidentally, I looked at a watch and realised that the crown had actually popped out. First time it's ever happened to me, but it can happen. It cannot happen on this system, so I think that actually is very cool. Now, the bracelet on this watch, it's kind of nice in that the links are curved, and I think that is actually quite a nice thing. And as you can see, they are screwed. We do have a really weird, interesting feature going on here on the lugs. It is screwed into position, 2 screws on each side. Now, I haven't took this apart because it isn't my watch to do that, so I'm not going to have a look at that. But the only thing I would say is I think then you might be stuck to only using their bracelet. If anyone else knows if you can use a leather strap on these, please let me know in the comments below. It would be interesting to know, because I like to swap and change my watches. As you know, if you follow my channel, I'm always wearing different straps on different watches. It's just something I like doing. Keeps it fresh. But this one, I don't know if you can. Now, the actual bracelet itself, very solid. They do have these polished center links going on there. Now, at the back, we have a rather funky, kind of chunky buckle. I love the motif there. I think that looks really good. Now, as you can see, it releases this way. It's a little bit tight, to be fair. And you've got the ball ball design going on there, which I think is quite cool. You do also have, which is quite interesting, a dive link extension on both sides of this. Now that is rather cool. One thing I would say is, if you look at this, and you might think that these 2 slots here would be micro adjustment, but it isn't. The micro adjustment, as you can see, is done with these half links. So that's one thing to be aware of. There is no micro adjustment actually on the clasp. That second hole is to allow the retaining the retaining ball bearing to lock back in. But as you can see, locks in very, very positive. The back of the watch is a scuba, like a scuba helmet there going on, which I think does look kind of cool. Can't say anything wrong about that. It's quite nice and locked down. So overall, I think this watch is rather good. Other little key features it has are the actual movement in this watch is a chronometer spec movement. I believe they call it the Ball RR1102C, C meaning chronometer spec, but it's actually based on a 28362 ETA model, and that really is a kind of hybrid of a 2824, the only difference being that you have a day indicator instead of just date. Now, as I say, it's a 200 meter diver. It has an amazing shock protection system. They call it spring lock, and it does look quite interesting. They do say that this can withstand 7,500 Gs of shock, which just sounds an amazing amount to be able to withstand. So fair play to them. The movement itself has a 38-hour power reserve with 25, I think it's 25 dual movement, and I just think actually it's a cool watch. Let me put it on my wrist and get an idea how it looks. I find ball watches sometimes a little bit hit and miss for me, but this one I am really taken by. Just like the rainbow model they did in black I reviewed a couple of months ago. I thought that was also a great model. So let's try this on my wrist. My wrist size is a 7¼ So let's have a look at this. I say it hasn't been sized, but I think that looks good. I think that really does look good. Even though it's quite a chunky watch, when it's actually on your wrist, you can see what I mean now about that curvature of the case. It allows it to sit quite nicely down there. So anyway, there you go. That's my little review of the Ball Engineer Hydrocarbon. If you got any comment, if you want to know anything about watch, give us a shout. I always try and get back to you. So anyway, all the best, guys. Hope you enjoyed the review and stay safe out there. Okay, bye.